Alyssa Thomas, that's what she does. She uses her body.
I'm sick of watching Caitlin getting attacked. If the league doesn't step up and protect her, things are going to get ugly real fast.
Want to know why everyone's talking about this right now? Because finally, the right people are speaking up. Indiana Fever faced the Phoenix Mercury on June 24th, 2026, and something happened in the second quarter that united the entire basketball world. Fans, commentators, coaches, the NBA, and the WNBA are all furious. Caitlin Clark was lying on the ground, defenseless, when Alyssa Thomas punched her in the throat and the play had already been called dead. Steph Curry was part of the basketball community's collective response. And what the greatest shooter alive, the man who changed the game of basketball forever. The very player Caitlin Clark herself trains alongside and looks up to has to say truly matters, because he knows exactly what it feels like to be the best person on the court and have opponents try to stop you through everything except actual basketball. He has watched what is happening to Caitlin Clark with his own eyes, just like the rest of us, and he has lived through that same experience night after night. We are going to break down every single part of this story until the WNBA steps up and does what needs to be done. If you're new here, hit subscribe right now. This channel is W Sports Daily.
What I would love Caitlin to do is get up one time and then just slap the
Caitlin Clark and Steph Curry share a bond that goes well beyond just knowing each other. Before the 2026 WNBA season kicked off, Clark revealed that she had been working on her game with Brandon Payne, who is Curry's personal trainer. "I knew he worked with Steph, and I love Steph's game," Clark said. "I'm just looking for new ways to challenge myself and keep getting better. This is a real connection built on mutual respect and a shared experience." And what exactly is that shared experience? Being the most important player in your league, the one every defense is specifically designed to shut down. The player opponents grab, pull, shove, and foul, only to watch those calls get taken back while the person who did it walks away without consequence. Steph Curry in the NBA goes through the same thing Caitlin Clark faces in the WNBA, even without the ball in her hands. Clark gets pushed, grabbed, and yanked during games, and Curry deals with that exact same treatment every single night. This connection became impossible to ignore back in January 2026, when Curry was being physically roughed up during a game against the Charlotte Hornets. Clark actually jumped into the comments under a video showing Curry being manhandled and wrote that Steph should just hit 12 three-pointers every game, and that people need to stop grabbing him.
Oh man, Caitlin is she's a beast, man. Like, and they love her. So I'll probably say Caitlin Clark. I love Tyrese, but she's another level in terms of just love.
Analysts picked up on what Clark really meant straight away. It almost felt like Caitlin Clark was speaking for herself in a way by saying that about Steph, noted basketball analyst Robin Lundberg. So when Alyssa Thomas hit Clark in the throat on June 24th and walked away without even a whistle being blown, Steph Curry saw more than just a WNBA incident. He saw a mirror. He watched the kind of physical punishment that elite athletes have to absorb simply because they are too good to be stopped the right way. He had seen enough, and he said exactly that. Enough is enough. It happened just over 3 minutes into the second quarter, when players were scrambling for a loose ball on the floor, which is completely normal, competitive basketball. But after the ball was already out of the play and Clark was still down on the court, Thomas struck her in the neck with her hand and then stepped right over her. No foul was called. The ball was gone. The play was over. Clark was flat on the floor, and Thomas put her fist to Clark's throat and walked over her like she was nothing. A replay showed that Thomas had also driven her knee into Clark's leg while she was already on the ground, and an official was standing right on the baseline with 2 clear points of contact on a helpless player, yet not a single call was made. Clark left the game in the third quarter with a back injury and never returned. The WNBA's biggest star was taken out of the game because nobody blew the whistle. Fans did not let this slide for even a moment, with one person posting on X that if the league is not careful, one of their superstars, possibly the best one they have, is going to end up seriously hurt.
With there's a lot of rhetoric behind her that she really has no control over, and I think that the way she handles that is just amazing. Like, I think when it comes to the game of basketball, like, she's probably top 5 most famous people that are playing right now, just in general. That includes our league.
Others went even further with their reactions. One social media user wrote that a technical foul should have been called on Alyssa Thomas the moment she hit Caitlin Clark in the throat. calling the whole situation a joke and saying it is completely unacceptable for a player to compete dirty like that. Another person said the referees are a joke and that this is nothing new, pointing out that Alyssa Thomas has been a dirty player for 4 years. A third commenter simply called her a dirty, dirty player. Then there was a viewer who admitted they do not even usually watch the WNBA, but happened to be watching this game, and they were completely shocked, asking whether this kind of behavior is normal for Thomas. Well, that reaction matters a lot. The league desperately needs new viewers, and the very first thing this brand new fan witnessed was Alyssa Thomas punching Caitlin Clark in the throat with no consequence, and play just continuing on. If anyone wants to talk about growing the sport or earning mainstream credibility, that is the first impression a new fan walked away with. The WNBA's treatment of the most important, influential, and beloved athlete in the history of the league is simply unacceptable, and Caitlin Clark deserves better, as John Root of Outkick wrote. Dave Portnoy, founder of Barstool Sports, asked why we are even in this situation, calling it a cheap and brutal shot. Robin Lundberg of Sports Illustrated went straight to the league office and demanded fast action, writing that the WNBA must suspend Alyssa Thomas for the dirty play against Caitlin Clark. Former WNBA player Stacey Dales said 5 things that cut right to the heart of it. This is pitiful. It was not even a loose ball situation. The league must look at this. It was completely unnecessary. And they got exactly what they wanted because Clark is not on the court. That last point alone should have sent the WNBA league office into emergency session. And while this channel has been critical of Stephanie White in the past, she deserves full credit for what she did at the post-game podium, showing up with fire and directing it exactly where it needed to go. White told reporters she had just seen the footage, called it terrible, and said she was unsure of the impact on Clark's health. She also revealed that she learned at halftime that no call had been made, brought it up to the officials, and yet her team still ended up with 11 fouls in the fourth quarter compared to the opponent's 2, while the other side converted 24 free throws in the second half.
What happened 2 nights ago? And that still happens?
What?
Absolutely unacceptable.
No, she didn't, dude.
Absolutely
She just
unacceptable.
cursed.
And the reckless closeout that they actually reviewed, and the foot still comes down on top of the defender's foot that wasn't upgraded? Absolutely disrespectful.
She went on, saying the officials had to make that call because it was both insulting and outrageous, and that everyone already knew what had happened 2 nights before, and that it keeps happening, which she called completely unacceptable. Then came what should have been the most talked about quote of the entire year. White said it is strange and absurd and dangerous to have a fist come at your throat, and she could not understand why, after going to the monitor to review the landing, Thomas still ended up on top of Clark again, because that looked like a second chance to get it right, and they still got it wrong. White was finished pulling punches. She made clear that her WNBA superstar and generational talent had been hit with not 1 but 2 cheap shots that were both missed, and that despite reviewing the fist to the throat and the reckless closeout on the monitor, the play was never upgraded to a flagrant. They had the monitor, they had the video, they looked at it and did nothing, and that is exactly what makes this so maddening. Caitlin Clark had spent the entire offseason working with Curry's trainer, building her body, sharpening her recovery, and improving her overall game, and she showed up on June 24th playing beautifully, only to have a fist hit her throat and a blow drive into her body that forced her out with a back injury. This is not a coincidence, and it is not a one-time thing. Clark has been grabbed, pulled, and pushed throughout games even without the ball in her hands, and this has been the pattern ever since she entered the league. Except now it has escalated to a fist to the throat with a referee standing right there. Steph Curry recognizes this pattern because he has lived it himself. The best players in any sport deal with this kind of treatment, but in the NBA and every other league that actually protects its stars, there are real consequences like suspensions, ejections, and flagrant fouls. The WNBA reviewed the play and walked away. It is not just the cheap shot that is the problem, it is the review that led to nothing. The league said it could look into this through replay review before taking disciplinary action. And that word could should terrify every single fan of this sport. Because could does not mean will, and Caitlin Clark is not safe on that court until it becomes a will. Right now, everyone in the basketball world, from Steph Curry to every fan watching on their phone at midnight, is asking the same question. Will the WNBA finally suspend Alyssa Thomas? And if they do not, What does that tell every player looking to take a shortcut against the league's best? Drop your answer in the comments, tell us how many games you think Thomas should sit, and let us know whether you believe the WNBA can actually protect Caitlin Clark or whether this has already gone too far. As this story keeps developing, one thing is impossible to look away from. This is not just another controversial moment in a basketball game. It is a conversation about where the sport is going, how the league holds up when the pressure is on, and what kind of message its decisions send to players, fans, and the next generation. Whether you see the contact as part of a physical game or as something that clearly crossed a line and deserved stronger punishment, one thing does not change. Moments like this do not fade when the buzzer sounds. They become part of the larger story of a league that is growing faster than it ever has before. And that is exactly why so many people cannot stop watching. When a single play takes over television, social media, podcasts, and every sports talk show at once, it stops being about two players and becomes a test of consistency, accountability, and leadership. For Caitlin Clark, this season has already come loaded with enormous expectations. With packed arenas, millions of viewers tuning in for every game, and every single possession being broken down from every possible angle. Because that is simply what it looks like to become one of the biggest stars in professional basketball. Great players always carry extra weight, but that spotlight also places a responsibility on the league itself. Because fans are not asking for perfection, and they know basketball is physical, that hard fouls happen, emotions run high, and players battle hard for every possession, but what fans do expect is consistency. The same standards applied every single night, no matter what jersey someone is wearing. Because consistency is what builds trust, and trust is what builds great leagues. That is why so many people are sitting and waiting to see what comes next. Whether there will be added discipline, whether league officials will explain their decision, whether officiating standards will shift going forward, or whether this just becomes another moment people are still debating months from now. One thing is certain, this conversation is nowhere close to being over. Every game Caitlin Clark plays will draw more eyes. Every matchup will be watched more carefully, and every whistle or missed whistle will be picked apart by millions of basketball fans across the world. Because that is simply the reality when one player becomes the biggest attraction in the sport. And this is not only about Caitlin Clark, it is about every player who steps on that court, because every athlete deserves a game that is competitive, physical, and fair. And that is what makes basketball great and keeps fans coming back. At the same time, players like Alyssa Thomas have built their names as fierce, high-intensity competitors. Physical basketball has always been part of who they are, and debates about where officials should draw the line are nothing new. Because ultimately, those calls belong to the league and its officials, but fans will always have something to say about it, and that is exactly what makes sports so compelling. With different perspectives, different emotions, and different takes from everyone watching, because they all genuinely care. As this season rolls on, do not be surprised if this becomes one of the defining storylines of the entire year. With every future meeting between these two teams carrying extra heat, every close game feeling more intense, and every controversial call getting even more scrutiny. Because that is what happens when a moment like this grabs the attention of the entire basketball world. Now it is your turn. Did the officials handle this correctly? Should the league take further action after reviewing the play? Or do you think physical basketball is simply part of competing at the highest level? Whatever you think, share it in the comments below, because we read your thoughts every single day and many of them shape the topics we cover in future videos. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want honest, balanced coverage of the biggest stories in basketball, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a thing. Because this season is moving fast and every single week brings a new headline, a new controversy, an unforgettable performance, and another story everyone will be talking about, and we will be right here breaking it all down for you. So subscribe, enable all notifications, and we will see you in the next one.